Hello, welcome. I'm here with my lovely friend Emily. Say hi, Emily.
Hello, welcome everybody.
So, if you don't know who I am, my name's Graham Hepburn, otherwise known as Quaver, and I'm joined by our training program administrator. So that's your official title, Emily, the training program administrator. And we're excited to be joining you today. Many of you have already been in school for a month, and some of you are just kicking off your school year. And we're here to show you a few things to keep you going in your classrooms. The theme of our webinar series this semester is active music making. Say that with me, Emily. Active music making. Okay, so what does it mean, Emily? Give us an explanation.
Sure, so the idea behind active music making is it's in the hands of the students. It's them actively creating music, whether that's melodically or rhythmically or through movement or instruments, whatever the case may be. The kids are an active component of the music making.
Yeah, and if you use the new music standards, Create, Perform, Respond, Connect, you'll realise that those standards are built around making music, the process of making music, not just the end product, but plan and make, improvise, plan and make, evaluate, refine, present. So it's all about active music making and how we can assess and help students in that part of their musical career.
Absolutely. So to get things started, let's take a look at what we're going to be covering in today's training. So the purpose of today's training is to explore student interactives and how to utilize resources for group and independent work.
And the topics for today are 1. Student Interactives Overview. 2.
Rhythm Selector.
3.
Melody Maker.
4. Body Percussion Dance.
Yes, I was disappointed. I was ready to share that with you.
Were.
All right, so with that being said, let's learn about some specific objectives we have for you around those topics. So the first one is to scaffold the learning process with rhythm. Number 2,
to create simple melodies and develop an understanding of solfege.
And I think we need to do this last one together.
Let's do so. To inspire creative movement in the classroom.
Yes.
Okay, before we dive in, a few housekeeping notes to remember about our webinars. We don't want them to be just me and Emily or Emily and I telling you what we think about how to use our resources. We want it to be a collaborative thing. So you can join in on the webinar chat to the right on your screen, and the lovely Mara will be there to facilitate. And I have to just mention, we've got this lovely iPad here, and the questions are going to be sent to us by the wonders of electronic confabulousness. So, ask questions, make comments about what you do in the classroom, and maybe we will read it on air. If you run into any problems with the live feed, be sure to refresh your browser and sit tight. We'll be right back.
Absolutely. Also, if you're looking to get a PD certificate for your time with us today, you can do that simply by going to quavermusic.com/PD credit and fill out the PD credit application there. We're also at the end going to have a few other reminders for you, so be sure to stay tuned till then.
Okay, let's get started with an overview of student interactives. So we're going to look at student interactives. If you've never really noticed this icon on the dashboard, if you look at the Quaver dashboard, as you can see it here, there's lots of icons all the way around. You've got tech support, teacher admin, resource creation, all of this, but right in the center, as if I were Robin Hood and I were to shoot an arrow right in the center of the dashboard, Emily, what would I hit?
Student interactives.
I would indeed. Student interactives. These are the only resources that are on the teacher part of Quaver that your students get automatically in their student dashboard. So when your students are logged in, they receive a student dashboard, and on that student dashboard is that same icon, student interactives. And you may not have explored it, but it really helps with stations and all kinds of creative work in the classroom. So let's click on there and we'll take in a little tour of student interactives. Emily,
Yes.
take us away.
Yeah, so along the left-hand side, you're going to notice the categories are listed there. Those are also displayed in icon form right there in the center. So if you want to explore each of those areas, you can simply click on one of the categories on the left or through the icons, and you can explore what's there. Or let's say that you have something in mind, you know, a specific icon or a specific resource that you're looking for. You can do that in the right-hand corner where it says search by name. So we'll be showing you how to do that in a little bit as well.
Yeah, so let's say I click on recorder on the left hand side, all of the recorder resources will open up. So in the spring when you're doing your recorder work and maybe you're differentiating in your classroom, you've got different groups playing different pieces, they can go to these interactive scores with headphones on, or they can go into stations. Or if I click on the home, it will take me back home, and then I can click on, let's say, music creation here, and it will open up all of these resources. Now, as we always say in Quaver, there's loads and loads of resources, probably too many to really explore in depth. So that's part of the reason for doing webinars like this. So once you see one that you think you like, say for example my first rhythms, you click on that one and your students can find the same thing because they will have exactly the same interface when they go into student interactives. So you could ask them, they will see this, you can get them to click on music creation, or you can get them to click here, and you can do it with them in the classroom. That's often a good thing to do. So they've got their iPads in front of them on their student dashboard, they can click, they can follow you and get to it that way.
Right. It's always good to model things first and then put it in the hands of students. So another thing worth noting here is the primary use scenario that we are discussing today is through that student interactives icon. And that's because when students log in, as Graham mentioned, when they log into their student account, that student interactives icon is something that they have access to on their student dashboard. So if you, the teacher, are looking to make these screens easy to access just through Resource Manager, or maybe you want to integrate it into your lesson, and maybe you don't want to do the student accounts thing, you can actually pull up these same screens through Resource Manager, integrate them into your lesson, pull up a QR code, and students can just quickly access it that way too.
So when would you advise teachers to use these?
So I think it's really helpful to do in independent work or maybe in small groups or music centers. So I found myself often pulling these up when it went really well with a lesson that I was doing, and it just added on nicely to what we were doing in class.
Okay, we're going to show you 3 student interactives today. Emily is going to go on her own to the table over on the right hand side, and she's going to show you Rhythm Selector. Now, you've used Rhythm Selector many times before, so Emily's going to show us a few things about that. Then I'm going to show Melody Maker, and then we're going to look at one together. Emily?
Yes.
It's all yours.
All right. So we mentioned earlier that you can use that search feature to look for particular screens that you're looking for. So in this case, I know I want to use Rhythm Selector. So from that main Student Interactives interface, I'm going to go over here to search by name. I am going to type in rhythm, and I don't even have to get the whole first thing in there. I've actually got it popping up, and I didn't even spell it correctly. So I can click Rhythm Selector right here, and just that thing is going to pop up. So it's kind of like a mini resource manager just within Student Interactives itself. So this first segment about Rhythm Select is really going to focus on what you can do rhythmically with your students using Student Interactive. So when you first look at this screen, there's kind of a whole lot of stuff there, and we want to figure out what each of these sections are, and then the primary goal is to understand how you can actually scaffold this one activity within your own class differentiation-wise, and even how you could do it through all of the grade levels. So you're going to see along the top it says drag icons to the blocks, click to flip, then clap, sing, or play the rhythms. Along the right-hand side, you are going to see icons. These are the icons that are associated with option 1. We're going to go up and look at each of these levels. We see options 2, we see new icons, and we also see option 3, and we see new icons. And we'll understand what that means here in just a moment, but let's first start off with number 1. So simply drag and drop these icons over, and right now we're getting students familiar with how to speak these in rhythm. Now you might be wondering, well, what's the rhythm look like? You can simply do that by flipping it here, get a better picture of how you would utilize this in your classroom. You can use that graphic notation as it is right there. You can use the numbers, it defaults to the numbers. You could turn all of that off, or maybe you can use syllables. Now this is going to be using TT syllables. I personally liked using Takadimi in my classroom, so I usually just turn that off, and I had my kids reading it to me that way. You could also flip individual cards over and do that as well. You can use it with the backing track just to keep kids in rhythm. Oftentimes I noticed that students' tempo would be a little bit off depending on what we were working on. So having that backing track just as a firm anchor for them to refer back to is really, really helpful. So that's how it looks on one screen. Now you're going to notice that depending on which options you select, that different rhythmic patterns are going to pop up. So I'm just going to drag a few over so you can see how it's becoming a little bit more challenging for your students. So I'm just pulling all of these up. You might see that phrase and not quite understand how it's supposed to look rhythmically yet. So you can actually click on it individually, flip it over real quick. I can see that this would be a ta, ta, ti, ti, ta. So that's going to be let's play basketball. I can flip all of them over, take a look at them, could turn it off, add my numbers back in. So this is slightly more challenging than that level one option was. We've got full measures in each of these things. We've got half notes introduced. We have more eighth notes being patterned next to each other. And then things get even more challenging. So you can clear that and head over to option 3. So over here in option 3, you're going to see a couple of new notation options. So we flip that all over and you'll see that we have some dotted quarter notes being added into the mix, as well as 16th notes. So those might be rhythm patterns that you're not going to introduce later until 3rd or maybe even 4th grade. With the level 1, that's really going to lend itself well to kindergarten and 1st grade. They're first learning ta and ta-dee or ta and ti-ti, whichever way that you teach it. So quarter notes and eighth notes. But here in the later grades, the more challenging grades, that option 2 or option 3 might be really useful for them. So this is one of those screens that is just very useful all within one area, that you don't even realize how this one screen could essentially be used all day long with your students. You might have just a rhythm day in your classroom and you might be able to just say, okay, kindergartners and 1st graders, we're gonna hang out over here in 1st grade, or the 1st level. We're gonna talk about all of the things that we can do just on this one screen with these icons. Maybe your 2nd graders are ready to move on to that next level. They're introduced to half notes, they're understanding that duration and understanding how to do that. And then in the 3rd level, that's 3rd graders and 4th graders are ready to see those challenges. Then also just within your own class, the amount of differentiation that you can do just within the group that you have in front of you. So just know that Rhythm Selecta is more than meets the eye. There are so many options that you can utilize within one classroom or even within one school day. So just know Rhythm Selecta is there, and we're excited. We're going to show you a couple of other things. We're going to head over into Melody Maker here in just a moment when I turn it back over to Graham. And if there are any questions, again, please let us know, or if you've been using Rhythm Selecta in a really great way, we would love to hear about it. All right, Graham, I'm going to get you set up. Are you ready?
I'm ready. I am ready. Thank you, Emily. Amazing. Okay. So, Emily, thank you. That was really good. And some of you have used Rhythm Selecta before. In fact, quite a few of you have used Rhythm Selecta before. I think there is another Rhythm Selecta that you can use as well, which involves triplet patterns. And that might be something, a little bit of homework to search up. Okay, I'm going to go into music creation. If you click on music creation here, I'm going to show you a screen that you may have used, but you may not have, called Melody Maker. Now, Melody Maker, we've looked at rhythmic concepts. So if you use Code I, you'll know that we divide into rhythmic concepts and melodic concepts. Melodic concepts sometimes can be a bit more tricky to teach. So say, for example, let's have a look around Melody Maker first before I dive into all the technical stuff. So here's Melody Maker. What you can do, you can drag up solfege onto here like this. Ooh, look at me, look at me, look at what I'm doing. And then I could put do up there. I could have a little, really should have a little tick up the top of do to make it high do. So do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Now what I can do, I could split that and have a 2-measure screen. So say, for example, just as a teacher, forget about what the students are doing with it for the moment, but I could just use this as a maybe a sides thing. I could have 2 groups, group 1 and group 2. I could use my draw tool. I could have group 1 here and group 2 here. Well, look at that, isn't that clever? And then, or I could go into, let's get out the draw tool. I could have 3 measures or 4 measures, or I could include the staff. So obviously when you're teaching students notation, sometimes it's better to make it in the key of F. I mean, they probably are not going to know the key of F at this point anyway, but when you're teaching, it helps because you're not having to explain sort of D below that bottom line, and obviously middle C and the ledger line, all that kind of stuff. So you can show notes on the lines or in the spaces, and it helps. Okay, so say for example, Emily, we're going to do a little project together. You up for it?
I'm up for it.
Okay, so Emily, I'm going to give you a 2 yellow. Oh, we've got yellow and a green. Let me give you 2 yellows. I'll take the greens. Can you pass me your green?
I can't.
Thank you. Okay, so I am So, and Emily is Me. And so let's say we were with some first graders, and we were wanting to label So and Me. So we've been doing Rain Rain Go Away, we've been doing Akka Backa, we've been doing all those things, but we actually want to start looking at those specific notes. So we're going to do a little project, a So Me project. I might put this into stations. So say I've got 6 iPads in my room, okay? And I'm going to put Melody Maker on all of them, and I'm going to get students to put 1 So and 1 Me in each measure. That's all I'm going to do. Okay. So, excuse the pun. So, I'm going to do this, 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 and this, and this. The tension in the room is palpable. Okay, let's play this. Ready, Emily? I'll count. 1, 2, here we go. Good. Okay, we could have this little rest bot. Let's put some more notes in here. And what we could do this with movement as well, because obviously we know any movement we can put in there. So Emily, if we do like a So Me, 1, 2, here we go. So Me, So Me, So Me, So Me. Good. So then we could go a couple of different ways. We could make the melody of Rain, Rain, Go Away. Rain, rain, go away, come again another day. And if we're introducing that note La, that would be a good one, because it will be the only note that's different. So here it gives us a real visual cue. We could play that in our boom whackers, or we could go down a different route, which is let's make up in the create standard of the new music standards. You've got imagine, plan and make. So here is a great sort of imagine screen. So you could scaffold it and say you can just use So and Me. So I'm going to pretend Emily and I are working together. I'm pretending, Emily, that we're both 7. Okay, and we're working together. I'm clearly the dominant partner because I'm not letting you have a go. Where do you think we should put the Me? Good, well done. Thank you. Let's play that together, Emily. Okay, 1, 2, here we go. And then we could put words to that. We could make it into a little song. And actually, if we had a number of iPads in the room, we could then, as the teacher, bring up those different iPads and make a sort of musical piece. And the students could hold them side to side, and we could all read them, and we could pretend that we were Beethoven, and we made up a special Melody Maker piece. And then what we could say is maybe let's add in, so we'll do this incrementally. I've noticed when we're teaching early grade levels, building things up really incrementally. So this time we're going to add a La in, or what you could do is just say you can only replace one of those notes with La, just like in Rain, Rain, Go Away. There's only one La. So in your new piece, you're going to have to... Have you got a La there?
I have a La.
Woo! She's got a La! How exciting. Here we go. 1, 2, here we go. Good, I like it. So notice the way we're just taking the scaffolding that Melody Maker provides for us, we could take a screenshot of that if we're on iPads and you're saving stuff in Google Classroom. You could save that as a sort of portfolio thingamajig, and you could do that. Here's another thing that you could do just real quick before we go on to the last one, is let's reset and go to 5-line stuff. If you're doing something with do pentatonic, for example, this would be a great thing to do. A really good way of composing with 4th and 5th graders, if you put on like a hip hop track and you had do, re, mi, so, la, do. So they're the notes that they can use, and they can make up what you might call little loops of 4 beats. So they would have to join these. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've got 6 beats, okay? But we need to join 2 of them together. So we'll join those 2, and we'll join these 2. We'll have them touching just to show that they're joined. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ba-da, ba-da-ba. Oh, hang on. Da-da-da-da-da-da. So different ways of using the screen to help with pentatonic improvisation and pentatonic writing. And you might want to go to 2 measures and do the same thing and have 2 measures of do pentatonic. Again, similar thing, you put a backing track on and you get them to play them on boomwhackers or an Orff instrument. So this is a really usable interactive tool for stations or independent groups with composition. Again, with your do pentatonic, you could put words to it. So lots of things you can do. I'm going to invite Emily right back now.
Yay, and guess what? I'm coming with questions.
She's coming with questions, which is good. And we're going to look at body percussion together because we know movement is such an important part. And one of our student interactive tools is body percussion. Questions, Emily?
Yes, so a couple of the questions have to do with Rhythm Selecta, and then we also have one about Melody Maker. So the first question was about, is there a QR code for Rhythm Selecta? So yes, you can actually pull up the QR code by simply clicking on menu and pulling up that there. You can also do that through Resource Manager as well. So anytime that you've got that screen open, you can pull up the menu and you can pop it up there. We also got a question about options for due day, such as Gordon, CMLS, rather than Ta-T. So on that particular screen, the only option is the Ta and the T. However, we do have other screens within class play activities that do allow you to switch over into those other things. So this would be a great example of actually pulling up the draw tool and writing in your own syllables that you like to use.
Yeah, and one of the reasons we allowed the syllables to be turned off is because there's so many different particularly with rhythm, there's so many different numbering systems that actually in Rhythm Selecta we thought probably the best option for us would be to turn it off, and then the teacher can outline those herself. Maybe not the perfect solution like we've done in our Kodai solfege pages, but that was the solution we came up for Rhythm Selecta without sort of overcomplicating the screen. You can just turn them off.
Right, and we have one last question about Melody Maker. It says, my students use Chromebooks. Will they have to have a student account in order to use Melody Maker? So one thing that's really, really great is that when you pull up that QR code, there's actually a URL down at the bottom that you could have saved as bookmarked on their accounts in their Chromebooks, and you can actually just have them type in that code. So when you go into the menu on any single page for any single screen and you see that QR code, read down at the bottom and you'll see that URL, which will allow them to access this without having a student account.
Shall I show them that now?
Yeah.
So menu, mobile.
Right there, www.quavermusic.com/mobile app. It will prompt them to enter in that code that they see at the bottom of that screen, and then they'll be all set. You don't have to have a student account in order to do that.
Yeah, and you could write that up on a whiteboard, couldn't you, on a screen or something like that when they come into the class, or you could preset their Chromebooks if they're not coming into the class with them. So there's ways around that. I hope
Absolutely.
Okay, let's quickly show them body percussion, and then we're going to wrap up. Okay.
Yes.
Let me go. You explain this. While I find it, Emily, you explain.
Yeah, absolutely. So the body percussion dance, you have options in meters of 2, 3, and 4, and we're going to play around with the meter of 3. So essentially along the sides, you're given a bank of movement options. And really this is intended to give students a beginning to what they can do movement-wise with these different meters, but ultimately it's going to lead to improvising. We just want students to internalize the beat and feel it, and if it needs to be structured structured for a little while in order for them to do that. That's really what this screen is intended to do.
This one is in 3/4. There's one in 2/4. There's one in 4/4. Again, this would be a good one to, let's say you were studying 3/4 and you came up either with a classical piece, a Strauss waltz or something like that, or a simple 3/4 song they were doing, folk song. What we've found is the best thing to do is to have the same strong beat at the beginning, because when we've seen students use this, they will put 3 different actions on, and it makes it very difficult to remember what that strong beat is. So our recommendation would be to do something like this, which would be kind of Eastern European.
Right.
Yeah, you're good. So we could do that for both lines, but Emily Hopkins, what else could we do with this?
So one thought that I had is you could actually partner up students, and one student could do the top row and the other student could do the bottom row. So utilizing those backing tracks that you see down there at the bottom, you could actually have your students performing their own thing. So let's say student 1 has that stomp, snap, snap.
Okay.
Student 2, let's make something different.
Yes, just do, you can do this part. You can slap your knees, and then you can, what do you want to do?
Shoulders maybe?
Okay.
Perfect.
All right, I'll do the top line, you do
Okay.
the bottom line. We'll...
And then
Should we swap over?
I think we should swap it over. Get ready. Here we swap.
Oh, it's like we've done it before, Emily.
It's like we've done it.
We've swap back. Here we go. Hey, I gotcha. So more difficult than we expected, but that's one thing you could do. You could also do a good lesson on form. So let's say you took the body percussion meter of 4, you could get students to come up with moves across 4 beats, which probably would be stamp, click, 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 stamp, and then you could maybe select one move for the A section and one move for the B section if there was a C section. So say for example you chose the song Argentina, Argentina, in almost country in the south. If you did that one, you could have an A section, a B section and a C section, allow your students to actually devise the moves for the different forms of that. So as we've said before, with all of these interactive screens, it's just taking time, taking 10 minutes, 15 minutes to think, how could I integrate this into my classroom and think of all the different opportunities this would give for you to collaborate in groups. So say you did that Argentina piece, you've got 3 students with an iPad, they all make up their own dance. So you've got all kinds of different groups you can go around, you could assess them as they're doing that, and makes for a really good interactive lesson where they're learning about movement, form, triplet meter, movement, all kinds of things. So Emily, anything else to add before we recap?
Yeah, so we did get a couple of questions. So this one says, can you demonstrate each of the movements? I know it sounds silly, but I saw Emily present this last year and realized that I was doing 2 of them wrong. I won't say which one.
There's no, okay, this is a challenge, right, Emily? You can do the left-hand side, I'll do the right-hand side. I don't think there's any right or wrong answers.
Yeah.
So this one here, Emily, what's this one?
So that one in the left-hand corner, simple stomp. That's usually how I did it, was just a simple stomp.
2 feet. It's
Yep.
like a stomp up on the desk.
Right.
The next one.
The next one, my students and I often talked about what this could be. So I typically tapped my cheeks like that, and it made
you?
a little tiny sound.
Okay,
Yep.
good.
Down just below that is just a simple head tap right on top. And then down below that, little redhead girl clapping off to the side. Yes.
And then this one is obviously tapping the knees.
Yes.
This one,
I've always done that as a chest tap. So you can do that with both hands, one hand. That's what it looks like to me. That's what my
Yeah.
kids thought it looked like.
this one is a click.
Yep, simple snap. And then
And then
last
this
but not
one is
least,
shoulder tap.
little shoulder tap.
Does that help? She'll have to email, text us back and see
Yeah,
if that
send us a
answers
video
the
of what
question.
you want to do with your movements. We'd love to see it.
Okay, any other questions?
That's it.
Okay, good. So we're going to wrap up. Let's just go through what we've talked about. We've been talking about making music, active music making. We went through the topics and the objectives. Let's look at our objectives again for this webinar, see if we fulfilled our objectives.
Yes.
To scaffold the learning process with rhythm. So we did that with Rhythm Selector. to create simple melodies and develop an understanding of solfege. We did that with Melody Maker, and to inspire creative movement in the classroom, and we did that with Body Percussion Meter of 3. So we've done that. Check it off, Emily.
Yes.
Check it off. Exactly.
Yes. All right, so obviously you've spent some time with us. We'd love for you to get credit for that. So you can head to quavermusic.com/PD credit and fill out the PD credit application to get your credit.
If you want Quaver Notes code, if your kids are on the Quaver website and they want Quaver Notes to buy stuff for their avatar, there is a code, and it's Back to School 19. Back to School 19.
Yes, and also don't forget there's always help around the corner. You can go to help.quavermusic.com for our video trainings as well as our archived webinars, or you can contact our customer service team at info@quavermusic.com. And we actually had one more question come in, and I don't want to leave this out. It said, if my classes are set up for students to access through Clever, they do not need QR codes or independently created student accounts, correct? So with Clever, that's just going to allow them, the account actually already exists because it's been integrated into Clever. So they would just go into Clever, they would click their simple little icon that shows up there. That's going to bring them to their student dashboard. So there's nothing that you have to do because that integration has already happened. So they're actually going to have a student account. They just don't have to do any kind of separate login. Clever is kind of magical that way.
That's so clever.
Yeah.
Okay, Emily, carry on with the announcements.
Thank you so much. So September announcement, we still have the unique contest going on until September 13th. So if you want to learn more about that, you can head to quavermusic.com/celebrateunique to read more.
Now, we are releasing one song on YouTube every month, a special song of the month. And this month's song is Pumpkin Bones. Emily, is that one of your favourites?
I do love Pumpkin
Bones.
Bones.
I love Pumpkin Bones. My daughter loves Pumpkin Bones, and it's got very good memories, Pumpkin Bones, for me. So that's a really great song. If you know Austin Otto, he was the writer of that song with a little bit of help, but he did a brilliant job on that. So if you're wanting to show people what Quaver's all about, you can go into YouTube and search for Pumpkin Bones, and you'll find that.
Yes, and we have a webinar coming up next on October 1st, so be sure to join us then. But in the meantime, we're going to leave you with Pumpkin Bones.
Out.
Have you ever heard of pumpkin bones? Pumpkin bones, pumpkin bones. Have you ever heard of pumpkin bones? He took all the pumpkins home. Have you ever heard of pumpkin bones? Pumpkin bones, pumpkin bones. Have you ever heard of pumpkin bones? He took all the pumpkins home. One fun night on Halloween, we were making pumpkin bean. Went to score a pumpkin catch, but someone picked the pumpkin patch. Oh no, what'll we do? We must find out who. Oh no, what'll we do? Where did all the pumpkins go? Have you ever heard of pumpkin bones? Pumpkin bones, pumpkin bones. Have you ever heard of pumpkin bones? He took all the pumpkins home. There he was, old pumpkin bones, had the pumpkins in his home. Bathroom, kitchen, 'twas insane. Pumpkin bones had struck again. Oh no, what'll we do now that we know who? Oh no, what'll we do? How we gonna get them back? We went right up to his door, knocked and knocked and knocked some more. Heard the footsteps and the squeaks, laughter filled his plumpy cheeks. We said, "Pumpkin, that's not fair. Where we come from, we all share. Halloween's great one